What's up? What's up? Today we're kicking it old school and we're getting funky. And in today's video, I'm talking about old school sales and why. Because I went on my own rants earlier this week talking about how some of the old school sales techniques are critical for success. I don't think that a lot of people agree with me though. And maybe I'm wrong on a couple things. That's why I turned to Google and I turned to Google AI, and the search results never steer me wrong. So here we go. We're going to look at the search results that Google gives me when I search for old school sales techniques. And that's all I search for. I searched for old school sales techniques, and I got a whole bunch of what I felt like are negative tactics or negative things. So here we go. What does Google say? Number one, Google lists them out basically. If you do a Google search and they're using their Google AI tool, obviously they start listing things out. One of the things they list out is high pressure closing. And I want to add some remarks to this, and maybe we'll use this side of the whiteboard to see how this is, whether these are relevant today, whether these are good or bad. And I just want to comment by saying high pressure closing, not good. We don't need to use high pressure closing as much anymore, but there should be a level of pressure that you should be putting on a prospect to make a decision. Remember that if they're investing their time and they're using your time as well to go through, let's say, a 5-meeting sales process, or sometimes even longer, sometimes even shorter. But the fact is, if they're coming to the table and they've accepted your request for a meeting, or they've come to you proactively looking for your solution, then you can put a little bit of pressure on them. So I'd say that one's all good, but you want to avoid being super high pressure, and you don't want to be that dude or that girl, because people typically do not like that, and that's good. Manipulation tactics and pressure. So I guess this is the same thing, high pressure closing. But when you talk about manipulation tactics, not cool. I don't think manipulation tactics are cool whatsoever. You don't want to manipulate people. You don't want to manipulate your peers. You don't want to manipulate prospects, especially. You want to do business, using some real trust and real values. So manipulation tactics, I would say, are the opposite of what you would be trying to do, which is build trust. And on this side, we're going to put current. And let's just say that on the right side, when we're talking about building trust, and I'm going to list a whole bunch of things out, these are potentially old school things that are still used today. People used to build trust when they were selling. People pre-Salesforce and pre-SaaS sales, people used to build trust. No doubt they still build trust today. You got to build trust with anybody if you're going to build a relationship, especially in sales. That's usually the start of a relationship. So say build trust in relationships. Now, what does Google say? Pitching products and not solutions. And again, all these are bad. Google's saying all these things are bad. Pitching products and not solutions. Well, I would agree with that. You don't want to pitch products all the time. You want to actually have a solution that's going to drive a customer forward, or else why are they buying it, right? Like, people don't need your product. And the fact is, if you have a whole bunch of products that you're bringing to a prospect to buy, well, you're not solution selling. In today's world, you need to be more consultative. Am I right? And there's a lot of companies that do a lot of training on this. You want to be a solution salesperson. You want to be consultative. That's actually going hand in hand with building trust, because if you can build trust with someone, you're more likely to be perceived as a consultant. Isn't that what you want to be in sales? You want to be that person. Okay, what's next? Rushing the prospect through the process. And this could be not just a prospect. This could be an existing client. But if you're rushing someone through the process, that's not cool. You want to know when they're going to buy. And you want to know when they're buying. And you want to know how they're making their decision. And the most important thing is what timeline. And one thing to get really clear through your head, I guess, as a salesperson, or if you aspire to be in sales, is that you can try and make people go faster and you can rush people through the process. If you think that they're not making a decision that's going to benefit them, then you can push them a little bit. But realize at the end of the day, people buy on their timeline. So you might not be able to rush your steps. All right, what's next? Google says going solo. This is interesting. A lot of things in the sales process you got to do on your own. You may be completely on your own for most of the sales process, but sales has now become a team sport. Whether you're on the sales side or you're on the buying side, making a decision on a service provider or something like that for your company, sales is absolutely a team sport. So I would agree with this. Going solo, not good. And when you start getting into big group settings, you want to bring people along. And that's where you want to bring in your subject matter expertise. You want to bring a whole bunch of people and you want to get others involved. It also works on the buying side. You don't just need to get others involved on your own side. You need to get others involved on the buying side, because you got to know today that there is a lot of decision makers on both ends of the table. So if Stacy's not involved in the deal now, she might have to be involved later. And if she's not there, she might hang up your deal or may stall your deal because you know that she's involved in signing and she's a key decision maker. So you got to bring people along on your side and get people to come along on the other side as well. Now, cold calling. This is an interesting one. I'm going to circle this. Me personally, I established my own career through cold calling. And in fact, there's a lot of opportunities, even job opportunities that I was able to find by cold calling and putting myself out there. I didn't really formally apply for a lot of jobs ever, like going through an application process on a company website. I usually found what I wanted to do and I hit them up on the phone and I called people. Cold calling still works. And this is not that long ago. I'm talking about a 15-year career or less. It's not that outdated. A lot of people think that cold calling is outdated, but I'd say cold calling is actually, in the new school, cold calling is harder than it used to be. Why? Because a lot of younger people do not put their phone numbers on their email signatures. They make it harder to get a hold of them. And I think the reason why they do that is because they want to sit behind their computer. They want to use their emails to screen anybody who's trying to contact them. But what I believe is cold calling today can help you stand out. And we can go into this as far as even interviewing. Let's say you're interviewing for a job, or you want to, like, there's a lot of sales tactics or sales techniques that could be used when you're interviewing and putting yourself out there, because quite frankly, when you're interviewing, you're actually selling yourself. But when you think about standing out, cold calling actually gives you the opportunity to do so. Don't think of the call as being so cold. One thing that I noticed is that everybody has a different definition of what a cold call is. And it just depends on your perspective on it. But if you want the ability to stand out, it doesn't hurt to pick up the phone, even today in 2025. High-mindedness. This is bad. This is what Google actually said. They said high-mindedness, and it didn't read through the entire definition, but I think I know what it means, and I'm just going to say it means status. Now, when you're playing the high status game and you are calling because you are an expert salesperson and you're on top of your game and you're world-renowned or whatever it is, you're basically putting a status on yourself, and you're putting a status above the other person. I don't believe that you need to put a status above the other person, but you definitely want to be of equal status and show that you're of equal status. And there's different ways that you can do this. If you are really, really trying hard to get somebody's attention and throwing in a lot of words of respect, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, you should take my call, then that doesn't show high status. It doesn't show equal status. It actually shows a lower status, and you don't want to do that. So be equal with people. At the end of the day, we're all human. We're all people. You should be equal with people. So that's what I think that is. So high-mindedness, yeah, old school sales technique. I was told to do that when I started my sales career. Probably wasn't a good idea. If I just went in with an equal status, that would make sense. We're all different players in this big game anyways. Last one, always be closing. I don't know why that's sort of in there, but if that's an old school sales tactic, then I'll say it's a good one. I don't know. But what's happened with always be closing, it's become a bit of a culture thing. And in sales culture, which is really, really important if you're on a team, always be closing basically represents what you should be doing and what you want to be doing to drive growth. Remember, at the end of the day, if you're in sales, you're there to drive revenue, and that's what it's all about. So get it together, always be closing, use some of the techniques